namely effective, efficient, competitive, transparent, environmentally friendly, increasing national capacity, responsible, and fair.
The world needs energy, now, tomorrow, and in the years to come. Countries want to grow. It is therefore pivotal to acquire, secure, and manage resources. And it is here where we Medco Energy are contributing, investing in the future of energy and natural resources industries. We are a large group of companies with strong multidisciplinary capabilities, trusted to own and operate large and complex assets, oil and gas, power generation, mining. Hailing from humble beginnings as a drilling contractor in 1980, we have been promoting growth for decades. Sustainability is key. After years of organic growth and a series of acquisitions, we have become one of the leading energy and natural resource companies in Southeast Asia and beyond. We now operate at a large scale in reserves and production, driven by technology, innovation, cost leadership, and HSE best practices. In our power generation business, we aim to produce cleaner electricity with gas and other renewable sources such as geothermal, hydropower, and solar. We participate in one of the world's largest geothermal development, Sarula, and are responsible for their operations and maintenance services. We are also operating one of Indonesia's largest power plant and bring electricity closer to remote communities with our mini hydropower plants. We are also engaged in copper and gold mining, providing jobs and business in a less developed region and uphold the highest international standards. We understand that sustainability is key. Therefore, we strive to balance business objectives and sustainable development goals, moving towards world-class operational excellence with cost management, operating efficiency, asset integrity, as well as health, safety, and environmental protection as its pillars. We employ technology and logistics management to reduce fuel consumption and GHG emissions. Asset management is integrated with operations to safeguard our investments, people, the environment, and reputation. And we have re-greening and biodiversity enhancement programs in place to offset our carbon footprint. Sustainability is key, and so is growing together with the communities. Medco Energy realized from the start that we needed strong local human resources to develop our business. We seek and employ the best available talents in Indonesia and beyond, and provide inclusive, challenging, and rewarding career paths, work environments, training, and education programs. We were also aware from our beginning that we needed to be socially responsible where we operate. We provide help in education, healthcare, economic empowerment, and environmental protection. We are also not afraid to go the extra mile, helping to select better varieties of organic rice and even building a regional general hospital. Our efforts are monitored and evaluated by global consultants, helping us to adhere to international best practices of ESG and management standards. The world needs energy to grow, to build a better future for everyone. Medco Energy is at the forefront of the efforts of balancing the interests of all stakeholders and being a prominent player in Southeast Asia and beyond. We aim to be the energy company of choice.
We are Mubadala Energy, a leading international energy company headquartered in Abu Dhabi, UAE. We follow the highest ethical, safety, and operating standards at all our assets and operations spanning 11 countries, with a primary geographical focus on the Middle East, North Africa, Russia, and Southeast Asia. Established in 2012, in 2022 we became Mubadala Energy. Our new strategy is focused on expanding across the gas value chain and into new energy sectors to play our part in the energy transition. Our approach to sustainability seeks to align the opportunities of the energy transition with having a purposeful environmental impact, maintaining a passion for people and their communities, and consistently delivering value to our shareholder. At Mubadala Energy, we deploy the latest technologies to meet the growing demand for energy in a sustainable and efficient way. Mubadala Energy, energizing the future.
Our story began with a dream, to see if we could take on an industry. It wasn't easy, but slowly, good began to happen. We put our name on the map. Conquered industries, even ventured into new ones. But could we have done more? As the world produced more energy, it became nature's problem, and we were a part of it. An answer was needed to put the world on a more sustainable path. So we gathered our strength and together started connecting the dots. Our purpose became clear: to become a progressive energy and solutions partner, enriching lives for a sustainable future. To reduce emissions, grow renewable energy, bring education to more, champion social impact, and promote a circular economy. To achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050, we searched for solutions beyond today and found the immense potential in the energy of tomorrow, where oil and gas can find new life, where plastic bottles can move cars, where carbon dioxide can breathe life into machines, where animals and people can live side by side, and where education is an opportunity every child could have. Let's connect the dots together and create a more sustainable future for all, so that our next generation will always have something to look forward to. Petronas, passionate about progress.
firewood to horse-drawn carriages, from coal-fueled steam engines to oil and gas. Energy has been a key component in creating a better life for the human civilization. We, one member of Sinopec Group family, are excited about the development of clean energy and making the world a better place. Sinopec Group is an international energy and chemical company that has achieved upstream, middle-stream, and downstream integration with a wide range of products. It's been ranked in the top 3 of the Fortune Global 500 list for consecutive years. Sinopec has the largest oil refining and aromatic hydrocarbon production capacity in the world, as well as the second largest oil and gas producer in China. Its operations span more than 70 countries across the world. Sinopec International Petroleum Exploration and Production Corporation, SIPC.
BP merupakan salah satu investor asing terbesar di negeri ini. Kami telah memberikan solusi energi selama 55 tahun. Kami telah membantu menghasilkan lapangan pekerjaan, investasi, dan pemasukan bagi negara tempat kami beroperasi. Tangguh LNG merupakan bisnis utama BP di Indonesia. BP terus berkomitmen untuk membantu pemerintah Indonesia dalam pemenuhan energi nasional dan di saat yang sama membawa manfaat sebesar-besarnya bagi masyarakat Papua Barat dan Indonesia. Inilah cara kami membayangkan kembali energi di Indonesia.
Saya tinggal bersama ibu aja. Bapak sudah meninggal waktu masih kecil. Waktu saya masih remaja, saya membantu orang tua saya di sawah. Di situ saya harus bekerja keras, disiplin, dan jujur. Sekarang saya bekerja di ExxonMobil Indonesia yang membantu pertumbuhan ekonomi. Dari sini saya belajar hal-hal yang baru dan mendapatkan kesempatan untuk menjadi yang lebih baik. Apa yang saya tanam, saya akan tuai di masa depan.
With its headquarters in Jakarta, Indonesia, Energi Mega Persada, or EMP, is one of the largest independent national upstream oil and gas companies. EMP, which has had activities extending from the Indonesian archipelago to Mozambique, Africa, became a publicly traded company on the Indonesia Stock Exchange since 2004. Through its subsidiaries, EMP devoted to exploration and development of a portfolio of oil and gas properties, which are Malacca Strait PSC, Bentu PSC and Kerinci Baru PSC, Kanyan PSC, BPSC, Sengkang PSC, Gabunk PSC, Tolna PSC, Sanyata 2 CBM PSC, South CPP PSC, Buzi EPCC, namely effective, efficient, competitive, transparent, environmentally friendly, increasing national capacity, responsible, and fair.
The world needs energy, now, tomorrow, and in the years to come. Countries want to grow. It is therefore pivotal to acquire, secure, and manage resources. And it is here where we Medco Energy are contributing, investing in the future of energy and natural resources industries. We are a large group of companies with strong multidisciplinary capabilities, trusted to own and operate large and complex assets, oil and gas, power generation, mining. Hailing from humble beginnings as a drilling contractor in 1980, integrity, as well as health, safety, and environmental protection as its pillars. We employ technology and logistics management to reduce fuel consumption and GHG emissions. Asset management is integrated with operations to safeguard our investments, people, the environment, and reputation. And we have regreening and biodiversity enhancement programs in place.
Hello, selamat pagi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, moderator, and all our panelists. Welcome to the 46th IPA CONVEX 2022. It is such an honor for me, Timothy Marbun, to be the host of this session, the morning talk of the 46th IPA CONVEX 2022. Let's start this morning with a big round of applause for everyone who is here this morning. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for your time with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished panelists in this special session will be talking about securing the future leaders of Indonesia's oil and gas industry. And first of all, to warm us up to that topic, we have a short video for you.
Mempersiapkan pemimpin masa depan industri hulu migas Indonesia. Secara global, industri minyak dan gas, termasuk di Indonesia, harus beradaptasi dengan sistem energi rendah karbon yang berkelanjutan dan berupaya memenuhi kebutuhan energi di masa mendatang. Momentum transisi energi menciptakan kebutuhan akan keahlian-keahlian baru untuk dapat menghadapi teknologi, proses, organisasi, dan terutama pola pikir yang baru dalam upaya pemenuhan energi global dan nasional. Juga menitik beratkan pada upaya-upaya pengurangan emisi karbon. Dalam rangka transisi energi, kebutuhan tenaga kerja yang disertai dengan pola pikir yang tepat menjadi hal penting untuk diperhatikan industri migas. Industri migas kerap salah dipersepsikan sebagai industri yang tidak inovatif, tidak menawarkan work-life balance, dan tidak ramah lingkungan, yang membuat tenaga kerja generasi muda tidak tertarik. Padahal, ini adalah persepsi yang salah. Hal tersebut menjadi tantangan bagi industri migas di tengah pasar tenaga kerja yang banyak diisi oleh generasi muda. Apalagi, industri ini masih berperan penting pada dekade yang akan datang dan membutuhkan tenaga kerja generasi muda yang handal. Pada akhirnya, industri migas perlu mencari tenaga kerja dengan keahlian yang sesuai untuk era transisi energi, berkompetisi dengan industri lain guna menarik tenaga kerja potensial, dan beradaptasi terhadap nilai-nilai yang dianggap penting oleh generasi muda, demi mempersiapkan pemimpin masa depan industri hulu migas Indonesia.
Hopefully that video will give you a picture of what we will be discussing this morning. And just a little reminder that we will have a Q&A session, therefore you can submit your questions to the panelists. All you need to do is scan the QR code that will be shown on the screen. And after you scan that, click the question box, and you may later submit your questions through that QR code. Now, ladies and gentlemen, securing the future leaders of Indonesia's oil and gas industry will be discussed in the following discussion session, which will be led by a moderator. Let me just give you a short bio of our moderator today. Mr. Holman has 20 years of experience in the upstream energy industry across a range of commercial, technical, and operational roles across Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the United Kingdoms. He is now the director for Repsol Indonesia's business unit and also Repsol Indonesia's representative on the IPA board. Please welcome on the stage Mr. Greg Holman.
Good morning, everyone. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. It's a real privilege to be here having the opportunity to speak to you on our last day of the IPA with this particular topic. You know, leadership is always an interesting thing to be talking about, especially when we have the wonderful panelists that you've seen and going to have the opportunity to interact with, but also, you know, leadership into uncertainty is also particularly interesting. That's where you can distinguish even more clearly between good leadership styles, good leadership structures, and less good. The role of a leader into, you know, energy transition is like that in any other role. You need to be offering a vision as to what you're trying to accomplish for your organization or your team. You need to be offering direction and support to get there. And I guess I'd like to leave with the idea that the less cognitive dissonance we have between what we truly believe and what we're showing is going to be very important. If you imagine 30 years ago, perhaps 40, depending on your organization, safety may not have been the first thing that came out of your mouth when you're talking to your teams about operational effectiveness. You may have been talking mostly about production. Today, it is completely uncontroversial that you would start a meeting talking about your safety performance and your expectations. It may be that we get there for climate-related decarbonization, that we believe intrinsically that this is something we do, not something we say, and that matures. You know, safety was followed by, you know, the concerns around environmental stewardship and, you know, the small-scale leaks into the environment, on the large scale, how we manage our stakeholders. And the cognitive dissonance has closed completely in those areas. I think we all believe safety is number one. I think we all believe that we must protect the environment. And we're all coming to grips now with, okay, well, do I need to decarbonize my portfolio? As Teaser said on the very first day of this conference, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? These are the parts we need to bring together. And believe, organizations that believe them and don't have that gap between what they believe on their inside voice and what they say on the promotional video are going to be very successful. So we're going to talk about leadership today with our team. They're going to talk about a variety of things. They're going to talk about leadership at the very executive level and what boards are thinking and what boards need to be thinking about. They're going to talk about the skills that we currently have as an industry. We are fabulous at deploying really talented people to solve really technical problems that are very risky and take a huge amount of money. We're wonderful at that. Are they the only skills we'll need to go through the transition, or are there others that we need to strengthen or develop completely? And we'll talk a little bit about personal behaviors as leaders and what makes a good leader to you and these sorts of things. We have people here today from, I think it's the University of Sudirman. Is that right? So one of the questions we have as a group is, as an industry, we've always been very good at attracting fabulous people. When you look around, the talent pool that comes to our energy industry has always been fabulous. Are we going to have the same success going forward? Are the very best people going to want to work in our industry? If we're perceived as being part of the problem, I think that question almost answers itself. So I think that's the scope of what we're going to talk about today, and that's my introduction. I think we now perhaps go to our first panelist, Pak Fathar Yani. Pak Fathar is the Vice Chairman of SKK Migas. He's known to all of us. He's an alumni of Institute of Technology in Bandung, where he's a chemical engineer. He's worked with a vast number of IOCs and majors, starting with Exxon in Arun LNG, also having spent time with Petronas, Talisman, and of course now your current role. So, welcome. And I think are we getting everyone else up now? I think we should. Pak Hilmi? I'll read out the full bios as we go for the actual introduction sessions as they come on as speakers, but Pak Hilmi Panagoro is the President Director of Medco, and I'm sure known to the vast majority of you, and will be our second speaker. Our third speaker is Pak Angel Blanco from Korn Ferry, where he's a senior client partner, and his presentation will be extremely interesting. Okay, very good. Thank you. Ibu Carol Gol. She is the president of ExxonMobil Cepu, and has recently joined the Indonesian team after a brief stint in Houston, and before that, Africa. And lastly, we have just had Pak Purnomo Yuskiantoro join. He will be joining from video connection from, I believe, Bandung. And he will be our final panelist today. So with everybody up here, I'd like to say welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm sure it's going to be a great session. And please, Pak Fathar Yani, if I can give you the...
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to everyone. I do apologize today if my voice not so loud today because I need to protect the environment too. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the morning talk, I just want to give you a bit overview of what is the government regulation point of view in terms of the securing future leadership, in terms of the energy transition. What I want to talk about today, two things. Number one, maybe I'm going to talk about our current production. Greg talk always about production, and then came with the safety and then environmental. Yeah, I actually disagree with that. We still need to put production first, but we do it safely and environmental friendly in parallel, right? So number one, we're going to talk about the production. Why we need to talk about that? Because of currently the trend is going, it's very bad, the declining stage at the moment. We need to put the production back to the track. In terms of our target in 2030, 1 million barrel a day and 12 BCFD of gas. And the second one, I'm going to talk about how we adapt this transformation into the 2050 regarding the energy net zero emission. First thing what we want to see is the mix of energy in the future, the requirement, the demand in Indonesia. If you can see, although the percentage of the energy requirement reduced, but the amount of fossil still increase. What does it mean? It means that we still need the fossil fuel for Indonesia itself. So we still need to put this as a priority for production. Of course, we need to include the energy transition and all the requirement to protect the environment. Well, as a regulator, within our organization, SKK Migas, actually we have established the transformation for this. Next slide. I'm going to talk about SKK Migas has put together what we call the IOG, the Strategic Plan, Indonesian Oil Gas 4.0. This is the house. You can see from the top. Actually, we already adapted this 2 years back. Achieving level best productions with national capabilities and sustainable environment. So sustainable environment, we already thought about this before the COP26 even. Well, what is the target? Of course, number one, we call it long term in the next 10 years, but after that, we're going to put the plan until 2060. At the moment, our long-term plan is only 10 years. We already engaged and cascaded down to all the PSC contractors regarding this IOG 4.0. Number one is, can we produce 1 million barrel of oil in 2030? Maybe everybody will have their questions. Can we do it? While we already faced the pandemic in the last 2 years. With the low oil price, immediately oil price increase, capital investment getting low, and very high risk investment from the financial institution. And we cannot, our movement is very slow during that era. That made our production today is not as per our long-term plan, but we need to ensure that we still can rebound for the production. What we do believe that in 2030, even we cannot achieve delay achievement, but we still have to fulfill the gap. That's number one. The second objective is, of course, with the functional of the support that we have, we need to have the multiplier effect to be increased. That means whatever we do in the upstream, it will give the benefits for the people, for the surrounding community. And lastly is, of course, ensuring sustainability of the environment. We thought about that before. We have 6 pillars to support this. Most importantly, what we are talking today. It is about people, process, and technology. So we talk about people. This is related to the topic today. Yeah? Securing future leaders, upstream oil and gas. Not only for the regulators, not only for SKK Migas, but it also applies to all our partners. PSC contractors all the way to our like vendors, contractors. Yeah? So they have to have the capability to support this in order to achieve our 3 targets. Okay? So the current, thank you very much. So this is one of the energy transition to help me before 2060. So looking at here, people, process, and technology. So we need to have the technology adoption. That's one of the things we talk about. How can we align with the requirement for energy transition in the future? Yeah. So based on this, we have done a number of assessments looking at ourselves, SKK Migas itself. Are we able to do this? Yeah. And also we have assessed our partners, PSC contractors. Are they able to do it? So now we build all this plan, yeah, especially for the long-term production. We have a number of discoveries, yeah, with big discovery, giant discovery. The production will be maybe 20 or 30 years. So the energy transition start from there. Yeah, we talk about the CCS, CCUS. For example, like BP today. This is the first project we're going to implement. Thank you for BP to include this CCS, CCUS into the project. This is so big applause for the BP. I know Saka Repsol also is doing that, but still very slow. I'm going to talk about that. Yeah. So this is one of the example for a big project that will take maybe 10 years production from now. We already included this part of the project strategy. The project is not only just to capture the CO2 in the reservoir, but can boost the production to enhance the gas recovery from the reservoir. And this is done also together with the university, which is ITB. So actually the university in Indonesia also already have the capability to do that. And I think we are successful in doing this. Second project will be in the Masela. We have done also some study and finished. Yeah. Of course, it will involve costs. Many times I mentioned about if it involves costs, we need to be flexible in terms of the fiscal in order to make the project economic, because this is for the future, yeah, of our generation. So that technology adoption, we already started. Next will be some other project, including the CO2 flooding, like in Cepu, you know, Saka Kemang as well, but they're still learning. That's why we need a good leadership also in the Repsol to accelerate. So talking about why the production today, I'm going back to my first comment, the 2 things we need to talk about. Number 1 is the production. What been lacking today, yeah, in the production? Number 1 is people is very slow making decision. That's what we have seen in the, you know, not only in our internal, but also our partners. Yeah. Number 2 is, are they knowledgeable enough to make decision? So knowledge is very important. They must be knowledgeable in the business. So when they are not aligned each other, it's very difficult to make decision. This is what happened today. Sometimes the project will take like 3-4 years, yeah, to finalize. But there are companies, they're very fast, very quick when they make investment. Only within a year, they can make production. I don't know whether they are knowledgeable or they are brave enough, or they take risks. It depends. Some of them, they take risks. So the risk management is very important. If they are not knowledgeable to make decision, of course, our production are very difficult to be achieved by 2030. I don't want to mention who they are, but a number of oil players right now we've seen not easy to make decisions. So we need a leadership, people who have a leadership, make decision fast and very knowledgeable in the business for the future. Yeah, if you talk about, is this a new thing for us, for the energy transition? I don't think so, right? People already been talking about HSC in the past. People, of course, they are very knowledgeable in terms of environmental, about the safety. This is just how to adapt the new technology. In the past, it is not allowed to inject CO2. Remember the Natuna Day Alpha project, very difficult, but today it will be allowed. The only thing that we need to understand is how the government react or respond to this. How quick, this is also another issue with the regulators. Yeah? The policy, is the policy there yet? I don't think we have seen the policy. It's still in the pipeline right now, the policy for the energy transition for capturing CO2. So if the oil, the players asking the question, what are we referring to? There is no fixed reference at the moment, except carbon tax. That's almost there. But everything about tax, of course, very, very fast. Because this is about money, eh? But of course, this must be a balance. When you have carbon tax, also there will be a compensation for that. Yeah? So we talk about reforestation, greenery. Yeah? So we do this also. So there is no new technology except injecting CO2 reservoir or doing the other downstream business. For example, blue ammonia, blue hydrogen. This is another thing that the future leader, when they do monetize whatever we can unlock the potential of hydrocarbon in the future, they think about what kind of technology that can be provided by the downstream. We already started also with this. Some of the project, for example, Genting, yeah, in the Papua, when we monetize this to the industry, we talk about blue ammonia. Yeah, so this already been green energy for the future. So now, what we need to do, we just need to add, for the people here today that already been knowledgeable in terms of this environmental capability, yeah, with knowledge on the subsurface. Yeah, capturing the CO2, either you put in the pipeline to be the downstream or into the subsurface. So this kind of knowledge, if we can provide to them, it's easy for them to make a decision. So this is what we have seen. Yeah, the speed of making decision. So in securing future leaders, we need all the PSC to be prepared, like what we have done. Yeah. So next slide, I give you an overview. This is a very, very generic technical skill set that we need. They are there already. Just need in terms of ensuring the competency level of all the people. Yeah. I can say, you know, in terms of the competency level in the company, it's around 50 to 60% right at the moment. We still have some incidents. Yeah. We still have some production interruptions. Yeah. So this still need to be enhanced for the current skill set. But for the future, next slide, we are talking about what do we need. Yeah. Next slide. Oh, they forget the next slide. Okay. I think they give the. I have another slide for this. So I'm talking about the from transition to net zero. Yeah. So talking about the technology on the capturing the CO2, you know, that one for the upstream, and for the downstream, how can we understand the downstream technology to absorb, yeah, to absorb, for example, like if you have the CO2. But bottom line, whatever we do for the future, we need to think about the production of oil and gas will be in the green energy. We have to protect the environment. So how can we take all of this, especially for CO2 and other impurities, not to be emitted in the environment? That's for the first start. Maybe next, if you have any questions, you can go through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Fatariani. I think before we introduce our next speaker, Pak, I guess one question just off the top of the head might be, you know, what do you see the reaction being from government when we submit a project where we have a CO2 carbon abatement element? Is it excitement because this is new and it's helping meet Indonesia's COP 26 commitments, or is it a little bit of trepidation because this is always going to have extra cost? And how do you help lead projects and the industry as a government institution through that tension?
Okay, thank you, Greg. Well, basically, we are very happy if the PSC contractor is submit with this kind of proposal, right? Because this is the initiative. We understand that some of the major players, the initiative come from the headquarters, yeah? So now, not only the major oil players, in Indonesia also some of the, you know, the national player, they also want to have this kind of requirements in their plan, yeah? Although the ministerial decree is still in the pipeline, for sure that maybe this year is going to be issued regarding this CO2 abatement, whatever you name it. But at the moment, whatever it takes, that proposal is very, very, very good for us. It's a good start. For example, last year we signed the MOU with BP regarding the CCUS. We are very happy to see that, and we want to see how much cost you know, we get involved in the project. Yeah, from there, of course, we're going to provide the support. Yeah, if your current term and condition does not accommodate this, we are very flexible to discuss. Yeah? So to answer your questions, yeah, of course, we are very supportive. We are hoping that not only for the long-term production profile project, even the short-term, 5 years, 7 years, you know, because not only production, sometimes, you know, when you propose the POD, only it takes 3 years, 4 years. If they can include that in the project, we'll be happy to support, and we'll provide the, you know, the whatever requirement that they need. Okay.
Thank you. And for questions later, the QR code will pop up at the end for the proper Q&A session. So now I'd like to introduce Pak Hilmi Panogoro, the President Director of Medco Energy, also one of our major sponsors for this event, so thank you very much. As you please to the, Pak Hilmi is an engineer who started his career with Vico, and has been both at ITB and the Colorado School of Mines. Currently holds the president directorship of Medco, having served in a number of capacities, and obviously is well known to the vast majority of us here. So please, Pak.
Thank you, Greg. Selamat pagi, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm only going to talk about at least 3 things today. The first thing, actually I only have 3 slides. Okay. The first slide is going to show you some of the history of Medco. Why do I want to show that? I wanted to share with you how we develop capabilities in the organization in the past. And then we are going to talk about how we're going to do it in the future. Okay, let's go with the first slide. Okay, many of you probably know that Medco started as a drilling service contractor. It was in 1980. You know, in 1980, if we are talking about onshore drilling, everybody is talking about Parker Drilling, the biggest onshore drilling company in the world at that time. So when my brother, which is the founder of the company, decided to go into the oil and gas business, his entry is through oil and gas services by providing drilling rig. So what he did, I remember at that time, although at that time I just started working for FICO, HAFCO, he asked me about this business. And then we talk about people. You know what he did? I said, Pin, the biggest company at that time for onshore drilling is Parker. Why don't you, I try to find the right word. Hijack is probably not a good word. Give them an opportunity to work with you and develop a new national drilling company. But actually we hijacked 2 of the most important people from Parker at the time. Operation and finance. 1 rig. And then I knew what was going on because I was working for HAFCO. So I was a well-set geologist in that rig. And well, it was hard work and luck. That first well turned out to be faster, better, and cheaper than the well drilled by Parker. So, to put a long story short, in 10 years, I remember in 1980, they have about 7 rigs. I think 6 was Parker, 1 is Medco. In 10 years, it was 6 Medco rig and 1 Parker rig. So that's how, if you can develop a good organization with the right people, you can do these things. Okay. So that brings Medco to 1990. Okay. And then again, I had a little discussion with my brother. I said, Pin, if you want to go into the oil and gas business, you should not be a service provider. You have to be a producer. I said, how do I do that? Let's start with acquisition. At that time, in East Kalimantan, there was a small production from Tesoro. I think they produced something about 2,500 barrels a day. The problem is, they have about 400 plus employees. So he said, look, are we buying production or liabilities? Well, I think we have to look at it from a different way. What we need is capabilities. So let's get this acquisition not for the oil, but for the capabilities of this organization that could help us develop an oil and gas company. So we did 2 acquisitions between 91 and 95. The first is Tesoro. We have 400 people there, mainly operational people. But the big one was in 1995. That's when we acquired CONVEX. You know, CONVEX is a 50-50 joint venture between Exxon and Mobil. I remember it was a bidding process. We bid $88 million for 10,000 barrels a day, which at that time everybody considered too high, too expensive. But we agreed at the time, this is a strategic acquisition of capabilities. Can you imagine at that time, we inherit 400 petrotechnical professionals trained by Exxon and Mobil. This is very valuable for us. And 1 year after that, we made a giant discovery. So we increased our production from 10,000 barrels a day to 70,000 barrels a day. Look, that was highlighted in our history in yellow. What I'm trying to share with you is, okay, we developed a capability through acquisition. Yeah. That's how we did it in the past. And we do it time over time. The next one was in 2015, when we acquired Natuna Sea, ConocoPhillips operation. Until 2014, we focused on onshore operation. And I said, we want to be also very good in offshore operations. And then Conoco decided to sell their operation in Natuna Sea. Now we become onshore and offshore operator at the same time. And then we want to diversify into mining. So at the same year, we also acquired Newmont, which is the second biggest copper producer in the country. So now we have 4,000 people in Sumbawa, which is, I regard it as probably one of the best mining operations in the world. Yeah. And then only last year, we also increased our production by taking the remaining of ConocoPhillips. So now we are at gross 1.5 BCF of gas per day, which is 25% of Indonesian production. Okay, that's what we have been doing. Now, what we are going to do in the future. I wanted to refer to Pak Fatar's slide, the first slide. And I also did the same study internally. Because to define what we are going to do with our organization in the future, we need to know what we're going to do, especially for upstream oil and gas. Pak Fatar's slide and our internal study together with consultants is very clear. In the next 30 years, although considering the pressure from this climate change and ESGs and all those things, and by the way, we share the concern that we all want to, I would say, have a cleaner air. We all want to reduce emission in all of our operation. But at the same time, if we look at those studies that Pak Fatar has shown in the first slide and our internal study, until 2050, oil demand will continue to grow but by 1% per year. Gas demand will continue to increase by 1.5% to 2% per year. Even coal may be flat or down a little bit. So fossil fuel will continue to dominate the requirements of primary energy globally. Maybe not in the US or Europe, but we're talking about worldwide, we still need it. And especially in Indonesia, as Pak Fatar's first slide show, both oil and gas will continue to increase. So, for companies like us, the direction is very clear. I told everyone in the organization, for the next 20 years, I want you to continue to expand our oil and gas operations. Continue exploration, continue development, continue the acquisition. We want to grow. So with that direction, what sort of leaders do we need? Well, I think we still need a lot of petrotechnical professionals. Maybe the way we work is probably different. I mean, with the new technology, the new work environments, the new, I would say, aspiration for the millennials from the young generations, the way the work infrastructure has been developing is going to be different. But the skill sets that we need to make sure that we can provide sustainable, affordable energy to support the development of this country will continue to be the same. The problem is, we all concerned about energy transition. And there is this wish, I call it wish, to be net zero by 2050. But it is a wish. It is not a target. Because if I have to define the milestone today, what we're going to do in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, to make that happen, I will have a tough time to do it. Because the assumptions are assuming that there will be breakthroughs in technology, which could or could not happen. Well, I hope I'm wrong, but I have to stay our plan based on facts. And facts are stubborn. And that's what we are doing right now, based on facts. So, again, to go back to what do we need in the next 20 years, I still need a lot of skill sets, a lot of good petrotechnical professionals to help grow our business. Yeah. So, next slide, please. Okay, I have to be honest with you. This slide is prepared by our specialist on HR. I think later on for our friends from CONVEX will probably have more like this. I mean, how we deal with the uncertainties, the volatility, the uncertainty. Well, there are ways to do it. But at the end of the day, I still need the skill sets that Pak Fatar showed in his last slide. I still need good geologists, good geophysicists, good engineers, good project managers to make these things happen. Again, maybe the work environment is going to change, but this business of upstream oil and gas will continue to be very important and still very attractive business. So that's probably going to conclude my opening presentation, but I want to close with this last slide. Okay. When we grow through acquisition, we have different cultures. You know? We have the Tesoro culture, we have the drilling service culture, we have Exxon culture, we have Mobil culture, and later on we have ConocoPhillips culture. So we have to have our own culture that we call it the Medco culture. Culture, in my opinion, is very important because this is going to drive the way the organization achieve its goals. So I want to share with you these two words of wisdom in management. One from Jack Welch, he said, culture drives great results. And the other one from Peter Drucker, which I like so much, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if we can develop a good culture within our organization that motivates the company to reach its goals, I think we are okay. I think the organization that has good culture can adapt itself to basically deal with all challenges in the future. That's my opening presentation. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Pak Hilmi. Just a first question, if I may. As you said very clearly, you know, Medco has a vision and a projected need for petrotechnical people coming into the organization. You know, in the context of energy transition and I think more broadly, oil and gas being a little less attractive as an industry than it traditionally has been. Do you have any view or vision on how to attract the very best talent into Medco in your case?
No, I mean, people has been saying that, but in reality, oil and gas business is still very attractive to many people. I mean, well, I can share with you. I talk to my nieces, my nephews, even my children, and they all ask me, Dad, why don't you go into e-commerce like Tokopedia, the Bukalapak? I mean it looks cool, and look at their market cap. I said, look, I mean, these guys are selling things. I would focus on making things that they sell. Somebody has to do it. I mean, provide energy for it. Thank you.
Perfect answer. I love Yeah, the idea of becoming a content creator on Instagram or the president director of Medco, it's a difficult choice. You know, let me. I'm going to need a little time to think about that one. I think my kids, my young children, may give me the wrong answer. Thank you so much, Pa. Please let me introduce now Pa Angel Blanco from Corn Ferry. Please. Angel has been in Indonesia for many, many years. He's worked for Corn Ferry, Accenture, KPMG in a number of roles. He's currently focused sort of on helping executives and boards structure and deal with the organizational challenges that they face. He's a native of Madrid, Spain, and as coming from Repsol, I have to tell my guys, I have not asked him if he is a Real or...
It's Atletico, Pa.
Atletico, okay, there we go. So I know our guys, but please, Angel.
Thank you, Greg. Selamat pagi, Bapak-Bapak, Ibu-Ibu, dan terhormat. Thank you very much for inviting me. Yeah, thank you. Is that okay? Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this event. And I'm very pleased to join this great panelist group. And let me start by saying that Pahilmi already made the biggest statement of this event this morning. So even me coming from Corn Ferry, I don't have much more to add, because it is true that culture drives everything. Culture, it's strategy for breakfast. And we at Corn Ferry certainly believe so. And definitely from the standpoint of people, culture, leadership, we believe that organizations are run successfully through their people. And I think that in terms of this topic of energy transition and securing future leadership, I think the secret is in creating the right environment for leaders to be able to believe that this is an industry and a sector that they can participate, not just in the present, but also in the future. I won't take much of your time. I have a few slides prepared. I have a few concepts that I would like to share with you, and then maybe we will just take the opportunity to discuss further in the panel. So maybe I can just ask for the next slide, please. Oh. It is true that I need stronger glasses, but I will try. So basically, Corn Ferry has strong relationships with institutional investors and with boards. We do a lot of work with them, and we normally engage in different aspects of the roles that boards have. And this pertains not just for the oil and gas industry, but companies and all sectors in general. And as you can see, climate change continues to be the #1 topic that boards are asked to focus on by institutional investors. And as of our recent survey of institutional investors, we continue to see that even in 2022, the topic of, I'm better off without my glasses actually, natural capital and biodiversity is a very strong topic. And why is this important? Because institutional investors and investors in general do look for profit, to look for the benefits of investing in companies in the bottom line. So this is not for show only. This is a reflection of the true belief that they have that by focusing on climate change, natural capital, biodiversity, ESG, companies will do better and they will do better. So I think this is something that we believe that it is slowly getting into the minds of the management of companies in oil and gas, but also throughout the different sectors. And that is actually what is the main driver of how things will move forward and carry through in the transformation. I have a bunch of slides, so I'll try to move forward as fast as I can within the time that I've given. So one of the things that we have seen is that, of course, board members tend to have a lot of experience, but also a certain level of seniority. So whether we want it or not, only a few people like Pahilmi may have been mindful of these matters in the 80s, 90s, but the fact remains that to be able to understand well what climate change is about and the benefits of net zero emissions and decarbonization, board members and management need to have certain skills. And that's why, in a way, we need some time for this to carry through in the organizations, because like in our survey, only 40% of board members feel that they are well equipped to understand decarbonization and net zero emissions. I think overall, in general, we do understand these concepts, but to be able to really understand and judge to what extent companies are acting proactively in this regard is not easy. So we at Conferry work with boards. I will get to the millennial and talent management issues later, but I think as a preamble, I think this is quite important. And there are certain topics about sustainability that we work with board members to engage into developing these competencies. And why this is important is once the senior management of oil and gas companies understand how important this is and what are the relevant topics that they need to focus on, they will be able to translate that as part of the culture change and as part of the process of attracting new generations and future leaders. Next. This is just a summary to illustrate how fast things are moving and how fast the oil and gas companies need to adapt to regulation. Without really highlighting any one event, what I mean to illustrate with this is like, this is as recent as a year and a half. This is only way back at 2020. And as we may have all been focusing on COVID and how the economy recovers from that, the regulators across the different countries have not kept quiet, and they keep developing new initiatives and new regulation for companies and oil and gas in particular to adapt to the transition. Next. Now we begin to get closer to the topic at hand. So why is this important? I think there are two key drivers why decarbonization will bring benefits above and beyond the simple fact of aiming for net zero emissions. Net zero emissions decarbonization objectives bring two key benefits to the transformation of the companies. One, they act as a seed for growth and innovation. When you have companies, especially oil and gas companies, that really have this problem that they need to cope with, how do they become and how are they perceived as contributing to decarbonization, while in essence they are a source of carbon by the mere fact that they are in the oil and gas sector. So we believe that first, growth and innovation can be enhanced significantly by establishing a culture of climate change, decarbonization, and net zero emissions. We do see a lot of that in the market. But most importantly, really, is you want to become an attractive employer for future leaders. You need to put your money where your mouth is. We have seen a lot of talk about decarbonization and net zero emissions. And I think what we see is that we need to make sure that people believe that we're serious about this. We have young generations. I have also been in Indonesia long enough, and I also talk to my kids, my nephews, and they all want to go into fintech or to Shopee or Tokopedia. And part of the reason is not so much about the attractiveness of the industry. It's more about a question of belief that these climate change objectives and decarbonization is more than just talk. And I think to the extent that we can illustrate and we can show the young generations that this is really important and there are actions being taken, this is where I think the young generations would believe that there is space for them to contribute from within in this effort. Next. Maybe just next. Okay, so at Korn Ferry, we have developed a lot of thought leadership about the concept of decarbonization or climate action unit. This is a concept that really established an organization function, an organization structure that uniquely focuses on this effort. This is an organization construct that is recommended to industries and to clients across the board, but definitely in the concept of oil and gas industries and companies, it's something that we see that it is something that can be seen as relevant enough for young leaders and millennials to see, okay, this is perhaps a place that I can work with. This is perhaps a place where, while maintaining my interest in the oil and gas industry, where I can develop my skills, I can also contribute from within to the transformation of oil and gas companies. And really, the fact that this is an organizational construct that has an entity, has a set of roles and responsibilities, a set of KPIs, and really has a certain level of seniority within the organization will make leaders think that this is kind of a serious construct. I have a couple of examples of how we would normally discuss this organizational construct in the next slide. All right, so let me see if I can see properly. So this is what we recommend to our clients and our relationships is, okay, so there is a different approach to how to begin to build the decarbonization effort from within as part of a unit that can be embedded within the organization of oil and gas companies. There are various alternatives of how to structure this organization. So we can think of, okay, let's give this organization construct a bit more operational focus, a bit more really looking at things from the way that we operate, which I think in the minds of my co-panelists here is really still the most important matter, which is production and ability to really make this an interesting industry. So we would normally recommend that structure to be part of the COO or of the operational director. There are other alternatives where we would recommend that this organizational construct, if you have an entity that already has a very high culture of ESG or a very high culture of decarbonization, then it can be part of that unit, and maybe it tends to be more broad in the scope of responsibilities that they have. And a third alternative of how we would organize this is because oftentimes the decarbonization and net zero emissions are very much related to individual projects, and Exxon, Medco, Chevron, they all have multiple projects across the different regions of Indonesia, and sometimes to really be able to have effect and to be impactful in the projects while maintaining a certain degree of decarbonization focus, then we can think of this organizational construct to be distributed across the different organization, regions of the different units. I still think this is very much related to the topic of discussion today, because if I'm a young leader, or if I just graduated from the University of Indonesia on petrochemicals or any related field, and I am still interested in joining the industry, but somehow I don't feel like I want to contribute to the pollution of the environment in specifically places like Indonesia. Maybe this is the right place for me. This is the right place for me to join. This is the right place for me to apply my skills, still contribute to the development of the oil and gas industry that, as Pak Hilmi, as Pak Fatar have said, it's not going to disappear anytime soon. We have worked with SK Kamigas, and we do agree that the oil and gas industry will still be very much predominant over the next 20 or 30 years. In particularly when we are seeing now, through what's going on in Europe, that national interest in securing oil and gas supply are really of the utmost importance these days. So I think this is something that it's really, really relevant. I have only a few minutes left. Maybe I'll just rush through a couple of other ideas I would like to share with you. This is nothing else than maybe to give some meat to this decarbonization unit. We have already given a lot of thought as to what are the functions, responsibilities of these units that we can define as job profiles and job descriptions that may attract leaders in the next generation recruiting effort. And maybe I'll just ask you to move forward until maybe I want to go to the slide that I talked to. Next one first. Next one. All right, so we have also thought about what are the key competencies that we would like to identify for young leaders in the oil and gas industry in this particular effort of decarbonization. I won't go through those, but basically to be able to identify what those are will help both ways. Will help for oil and gas companies to be able to identify this and to really offer this kind of competency opportunities to young millennials and leaderships. And also, if I'm again, I don't know why I keep comparing me to a young chap anymore, but basically, if we're looking at new people that want to go into these industries, they can see that these are the 6, 7 competencies that they are able to leverage on, that they want to develop, then they will feel more attracted by them. And then one last thought I want to share is about measuring, in the next slide, I think. Yeah, so basically the last thought is, okay, at the end of the day, we still need to put, as I said, our money where our mouth is. So basically 2 last thoughts. The first one is about setting up KPIs and performance metrics across the organization that do incorporate decarbonization goals and targets. This is where we will really be able to be measured against the statements that we have made in the long term. And finally, whether we want it or not, remuneration and compensation is important. So be able to maintain a competitive remuneration package that is also tied to the ability to achieve certain decarbonization objectives. We believe that will serve well to the industry and will continue to attract new leaders. So I think my time's up. So thank you very much, and I look forward to discussing and answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Angel. And what would you imagine are the risks for an organization that doesn't take some of these steps to transform themselves from a talent or a leadership perspective?
we will continue to suffer what we are suffering today, which is we are unable to attract the best people for this organization and for this industry. And I mean, we will only be shooting ourselves in the foot. So I think this is really important. But clearly for me, the most important thing is you need to be sure that people, young generations, believe that this is really more than just talk, or this is more than just a way to address certain social pressures without really transforming from within. And that's very hard to prove unless you really create incentives, organization structures that put the entity in the right place to transform. So I think so.
And now, if I can, I'd like to introduce Ibu Carol Gall from ExxonMobil, the President Director of CHEPU. Carol started her career as a reservoir engineer in the United Kingdom with Exxon, moved on through a number of operational and commercial roles, and was the commercial manager for a global part of their organization before moving into operations. Most recently had a short stint in Houston, but before that was the President Director of ExxonMobil Chad. Thank you for your contribution today.
Selamat pagi. Let me start by saying it's a real honor to share the stage with the distinguished speakers today. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And of all of the topics I could have talked about today, I'm so excited to talk about people. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about a people topic. If we think about the last 2 days, we've talked about investments, we've talked about technology, we've talked about energy transition, the need to continue to invest in oil and gas. Well, none of that can happen without people. And so the topic today is really a foundation to everything we do and to our future. And so that's why I'm so passionate about the topic today. I heard over the last few days a fair amount of optimism with Indonesia. Many opportunities, a collaborative government, energy transition, but still a lot to do on the oil and gas front. Today, in my presentation, you will hear optimism about our ability to secure talent in the oil and gas industry. I strongly believe that we, Indonesia, can be successful at securing the oil and gas leaders of the future. I only have 4 or 5 slides today. The first 2 slides will talk about some reflections on our industry as a whole. And then the next few slides will talk about what we do in ExxonMobil to try to develop the leaders of the future. The first observation we can make, and one really good reason to be optimistic, is that our industry is fantastic at dealing with change. Society has asked more and more and more out of us. You can see that on the left-hand side on this page. This shows energy demand through time starting in 2000. And energy demand has been growing substantially. And the projection is that energy demand is continuing to grow. Why is that? Well, that's because we have more and more people on the planet. And people, just like you and me, want energy. That's a basic need for society. And when energy demand has been growing, we, as an industry, we've had to deliver. We've had to adapt. We've had to develop our people such that we would continue to meet the demands of society. And in the little circles in the right-hand side, you see some of the things that we've developed not too long ago. I would say in the last 50, 60, 70 years. Even when I started my career, this wasn't something that was very common in the industry. And now these things are very common. So talk about extended reach drilling. The wells we're drilling are longer and longer and more complex. Reservoir modeling, I mean, this is an art. We're talking about reservoir characterization, simulation models, which are so amazing these days. Deep water technology. When I started my career, again, not too long ago, deep water wasn't on the cards. But we've had to go and challenge ourselves with technology because society needs more and more energy. Seismic. When I started my career, 2D seismic was the norm. 2D seismic. Then we started talking about 3D seismic. And then now we talk about 4D seismic. All of these technology advancements require out of us that we develop our people such that they get familiar with these topics. And so my key message today, at least the first message, is that our industry is excellent at dealing with change. And so energy transition is a change, yes, but it's one of the many changes that we've had through time. And so we shouldn't fear this change. We should welcome this change as an opportunity. The second reason why I'm pretty optimistic with the situation is that we have been successful at attracting talent. And, you know, to this day, many of our companies are still hiring. ExxonMobil is still hiring. I had the pleasure yesterday of attending some of the sessions from our young engineers, technical sessions. They did such an amazing job at talking about their technical topics. And so we are able to attract young people into our companies. Now, going forward, we need to continue to convey our important messages such that the young generations continue to be attracted by our industry. And there are some pretty fundamental messages to convey. The first message is we, our industry, provide the reliable and affordable energy that society needs. In other words, society needs us as an industry. Without our industry, society cannot function. The second observation, and the reason why we need to continue to attract people, is energy transition needs us as well. When we think about energy transition, we talk about hydrogen, we talk about CCS, CCUS, biofuels, chemicals, maybe advanced plastic recycling technology. All of these energy transition topics that I've just mentioned require technology, engineering, great commercial skills, geoscientists. I mean, can we think about injecting CO2 under the ground without consulting with people who know about the rocks? And so for that reason, our industry is ideally positioned to be part of the solution with energy transition. And so when we try to attract talent into our industry, we need to tell them that they provide energy today that society needs, and it's a very noble cause. In addition to that, they're going to help solve the energy transition problem that society has. Another good reason to be optimistic and excited. Now let me switch gears and talk a little bit about what ExxonMobil does to attract talent. You know, the topic today is securing oil and gas leaders of the future in Indonesia. Well, in ExxonMobil, we find that it's not about only securing people. It's about securing talent, it's about developing talent, and it's about retaining talent. And we really need to focus on these three aspects such that we don't end up developing people who then go and move on and work for other industries. And so ExxonMobil likes to take a long-term view of career development. And you see some of the outcome here on the slide. You know, we're very proud of the numbers here in the red box. A lot of our Indonesian people have been abroad on international assignments. Today, our operations in Cepu are 99% plus nationalized. I mean, think about that. Essentially, our operations are run by Indonesians, as they should be, because we're in Indonesia. But it just shows that we've invested a fair amount of efforts into our people development. And that's an approach that we take as an organization. The world map that you see on the right-hand side makes me really proud. What this shows is today, the Indonesian employees that we have around the world helping our worldwide operations. And so today, we have Indonesian employees working in Texas, in Guyana, in Africa, in Europe, in India, in Papua New Guinea, in Australia, and of course in Indonesia. But for us, this is part of the model that we need to try to expose our people to things which are a little bit different. And when we bring them back home, then they have a different perspective on things. So the approach that we're trying to take as a company is a long-term approach with regards to developing our people. The other thing that we're trying to do in ExxonMobil is we're trying to have a diverse mix of careers such that we have a broad spectrum of capabilities in the organization. And I'm not going to go through that into a lot of detail, but we have three business segments in ExxonMobil. There's the upstream, which is the oil and gas production. We have the downstream, which is fuels, lubricants, chemicals, and then we have low carbon solution. That's basically energy transition. And we're moving people across those business segments such that they get a good flavor of what's going on across the business. We also, as I mentioned, move people abroad. That creates a great diversity of skills. And then we have a wide range of career paths. If people want to be an expert in ExxonMobil, they can be an expert. If people want to try different things, you know, going from engineering to commercial to operations to strategy, then we have career paths like that as well. And the great thing about this approach is we have a diverse mix of employees. And this is a core strength when society evolves around us and we're not quite sure what society will need in the next 10 years. So diversity is a core strength for us. This is just my final slide with the key takeaways. So again, very optimistic with the future, especially given the talent pool in Indonesia. For me, who's traveled around the world, I'm really impressed with the talent that we have here. And yeah, the comments here on the slides are comments that I've already made. Maybe I want to close. I want to close by sending a message to the young people here in the room. I see students and I see younger generations, and I want to congratulate you for looking into the oil and gas industry as a career path. And I can assure you that this is a very rewarding career path. I think the world is your oyster if you go down this path. So thank you very much, and terima kasih.
Thank you, Ibu Carol. Just a quick thought. Has what you look for in your incoming leaders, the people you earmark, has it changed much in your career as you've taken people on, or is it evolving, or is it the same sort of things that you look for in your talent pool?
Well, I think we always look for the best talent. And the best talent for us is typically people, obviously, with intellectual capabilities, but also people who take a long-term view. We're not too interested in people who want to join ExxonMobil just to then move on and do something else. So that loyalty for us is important. I would add that, again, we have the option to develop experts. So we're interested in people who want to try to become the best that they can be in their function. But we also want people who are very open-minded with what the future may look like. And, when we hire engineers, they may be mechanical engineers, they may be electrical engineers, petroleum engineers, but it's really important for them to be open to doing different type of engineering. You mentioned I'm a reservoir engineer by background. Very early in my career, I moved on to a different type of engineering, much more mechanical. And we need to have the mindset of learning. We need to be able to be flexible and learn, and that's a very important skill for us.
Very good, very clear. Thank you very much. I might move briefly to the podium just to introduce our next speaker. To many of you in our industry, Professor Purnomo Yuskiantoro is a very familiar figure. He is currently the professor and the founder of the Purnomo Yuskiantoro Center. He serves as a senior advisor to the Executive Office of the President of Indonesia. He's a professor of energy economics at ITB. He received a bachelor's degree in ITB. He has a master's in science and a PhD from the Colorado School of Mines and the University of Colorado Boulder, respectively. He has acted as the chairman of the Board of Commissioners of Pertamina and held the vice governor of Lemhanas. In addition to which, he was the Minister for Energy and Mineral Resources before becoming the Minister for Defense in Indonesia, and he served Indonesia in multiple capacities throughout his career. So with that, please, Professor Purnomo, welcome. Not quite sure where to look, but you're on our big screen, so please continue, Pat.
Well, thank you for the nice introduction, Mr. Moderator. The topic that given to me today is developing human capital in the future of oil and gas industry. What I would like to do within 15 minutes, and I'll try to stick with my time for 15 minutes. I have three different topics here. The first one is really the need for the human resource regeneration. The second one is what really education needed to get the human capital in the oil and gas industry. And the last one, I would like to say about what is the current and future leaders in the oil and gas industry based on my experience in the oil and gas and also in the academic exercise. This is the first one that I would like to say about the need for human resource development. Why really do we need it? What I see is the democratic shifted in the oil and gas industry. If we look at here, in the right side, we see that now the industry is moving to the automatization. Automatization is in all over the sector from the upstream and for the downstream. I'm sorry, we look at from the left side here. But then the 61 of oil and gas executives believe that the big data is important and also the analytics will also critical. And I will quote from the statement of SKK Migas that they said that 22% of the employees in this sector, in the oil and gas sector, will retire within 7 years. Next slide. But if we look at the human resource regeneration, I think all of us understand that in Indonesia is a plethora of resources, technology advancement, but there is a demographic shift now. People now is thinking about the new and renewable energy, the green energy, sustainable development, net zero emission, and also the regulation change, and also mostly related to the development of the new and renewable energy. I repeat again that the automatic manufacturing process and also the artificial intelligence and also the big data are not really important and critical. What I like to share with you, the situation is in this country, the Human Development Index. The Human Development Index is consisting of three factors important. One is life expectancy. Second is education, knowledge. The third is the descent in the standard of living. We use usually the GDP per capita, but from these three factors, we see the important thing is the knowledge, because in Indonesia, the knowledge is related to the education. Here is the table that I show you among the ASEAN countries. Indonesia is in a high human development index. We are lower than Singapore, Brunei, Malaysia, and Thailand, but we are similar to the level in Vietnam. But you look at here, the Human Development Index is gradually increasing, but I think because of pandemic, it happened recently that now the Human Development Index is a little bit sliding down. Next is what very attractive one, the research done by the Ernst & Young in year 2017. If we look at here, the decrease in the job family, I think it's because automation, because of the big data needed, because of artificial intelligence and shifting to the new technology, innovation technology. If we look at the decrease, the biggest one is coming from the equipment operator and then down to the drilling operation. Yeah, and I'll show you here the result of the statistic in the Gen Z. Gen Z is the one, the millennial that born in between 16 and 19 years old, saying that the oil and gas industry is a sunk industry. I will have to say that, although in the millennial, between the age of 20, 35, they said is still higher, but still low, it's between about 18%. So the conclusion is 2 out of the 3 tenths believe the oil and gas industry causes problem rather than solve the problem. Well, I understood the way they think like this because of the millennials now is thinking about the green industry, the green technology, the new and renewable energy. Next. The second one, the second item that I would like to say is the education needed to develop the human capital in oil and gas industry. First one, I would like to show you the target for us. Expected year of the schooling is about 13.6 years. At least that the young people will get the elementary schools education. They got the higher level of education, 12 years duration, plus at least is the bachelor's level. But if you look at today, that the schooling of the 2019 is still 8.2 years. So we have to climb hardly to achieve our level or target 13.6. So if you look at here, we are in the lower levels. We are similar like a Thailand. We are similar like a China. We are similar like a India in the sense of the education system. So what really needed, for the human capital in oil and gas industry? If we look at now the shifting, the problem. Next slide, please. From when I was in the school, I did study the petroleum engineering, but today's, they had been shifting the problem from the monodisciplinary to the transdisciplinary. What is that? That is the combined together, petroleum engineering, economy, and the social studies together. The shifting gradually from the monodisciplinary to multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, but then finally, what we need, I think, is transdisciplinary. Well, in the several universities in Indonesia and also in Singapore, now what they introduce, what we call it a strategic study. That is the research strategy that involving participated from stakeholders who not only academicians, but also they mix together, implemented of the society. So what I would say, if we are talking the human capital is different than the human resources. Human capital is the human resources with a variable scale, with the knowledge, with the experience. If we look at our industry is capital intensive, technological intensive, but what we really need is the human capital to possess individual or population view term of their value or cost to an organization country, organization or the country. But what is the question now? The question is that, we can achieve that if we can combine together in the pentahelix, that the public authority together with the industry, with the citizen, with the academia, and the NGO to combine together to achieve the human capital's target. Next. This is the education needed to develop the human capital in the oil and gas industry. The first one is what we needed is the artificial intelligence, is the big data. And we need to perform a collaborative program between majors that I show you before is the combination of the pentahelix. Facilitate students with the recent updated real-world problem, challenge in the oil and gas industry. The last one that I would like to present to you is the leaders. Consisting of the self-leadership. What I say is very important with the self-leadership because this is the basis of the leadership to grow to larger so that you can lead the organization and lead the others. So basically, self-leadership is very important as that is the basic fundamental as a leader. The leader not only concerned with the production, but also concerned with the people. So if we look at the characteristic of the self-leadership, you can see here, but the most important thing is mastering others is very good. Mastering others is strength, but mastering yourself is the fundamental of the true power. I quoted then from Lao Tzu. Self-leadership is the self-awareness, self-confidence, and self-efficiency. Next, what I would like to show you, being the leader is different being the managers. Some people mix it together, the leadership with the management. No, it's really different because leadership has a certain criteria, like a visionary, motivation, priority, influencing human resources, not instructed, building a new structure. So in here, I would like to differentiate it between the management and the leadership. The last slide I would like to show you is what is the characteristic for the current and future leaders in the oil and gas industry. The way I have formulated in here is one, got to be a shifting paradigm because now the world is changing, it's different from the time to time. It's got to be the agent of change. Active participation, communication scale is very important, but understand the industrial revolution. The industrial revolution is moving very fast here. Adaptive, creative, and innovative and transformative. And finally, you have to appreciate people's need for the self-fulfillment. With that, then I will complete my presentation. Thank you very much.
Professor Purnomo, if I may, you've held so many top positions within the Indonesian government and the energy industry within Indonesia, but you're now also our only educator on this panel. When you look at the current teaching environment and the schooling that brings our young people through to participate in our industry, do you see gaps, whether it's areas we need to focus on improving, or areas where the softer leadership skills we need to develop more for people before they come into our industry? Curious.
Well, the important thing for us to be understood of the leadership, you got to have first the basis of your knowledge, what is really the leadership. That is needed, to be built in the formula of your education curriculum. But some education in this country, and probably in other countries too, they still focus what I said before is a monodisciplinary. But the world now is shifting, not only understand the monodisciplinary, but also transdisciplinary. That's why some of the university now often, you can see for instance, in Singapore, you have the RSIS, Rajaratnam School of International Studies. That is what we call it, the strategic studies. Yeah. In ITB, there is one also, but the national development. They mix together, not only you understand the monodisciplinary, but also you understand the transdisciplinary, mixing together between the petroleum engineering, economy, and social studies. We did have that in our education program, in the petroleum engineering ITB. Even myself now that I'm teaching the energy economic, I try to bring up to the student what is really economic, and you cannot get away the economic from the petroleum engineering. Technology, economic, technology, economic. That's what we try to do to bring up to the transdisciplinary. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And I think just before we move into the question and answer session and the discussion, can I get a big round of applause for our panelists, both here and in Bandung? Fantastic. They warned me there was going to be an eye test for me today. This one's to Pa Angel. Is the energy transition enough to attract millennials? And do they think they would be empowered to change companies from within?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I think we need to be realistic of the fact that in the long term or the very long term, the growth of less traditional energy sources will remain. So definitely, I do not think that we can go back to how things were. But having said that, the oil and gas industry is here to stay, and I think the industry needs to continue to put emphasis on how beneficial the oil and gas industry is for the world and for the economy of the world. And I think, like I briefly mentioned during my presentation, the events that are going on in Europe at the moment, where every single country, in Germany, they just nationalized some of the energy companies to secure the energy supply, may be something to think about, to maybe enhance the public image or the brand that the traditional energy companies have. But having said that, I think that really the oil and gas companies need to demonstrate that they are materially doing something about it, that they measure themselves against decarbonization targets. They give themselves shorter timelines to achieve certain targets. They maybe also leverage from social media, perhaps. That's something I just talked through, to maybe look for champions in the millennial population, in the young population that are willing to stand up for oil companies. And maybe through that, the public image of oil and gas companies can be enhanced. It's a tough battle, I think. There's no question about it. But as our panelists here have also shared, the industry continues to attract a lot of people. So I think that it is possible. It is not also the topic of today's discussion, but also gender issues of how the industry can attract women, young or older. It's something that can be thought through in the context of this leadership challenge. But I definitely think so, and I definitely that there is potential. I mean, it is a very interesting industry. Like for engineers, what better world to work on than in the oil and gas industry? I mean, if you have a brain, if you have certain intellectual challenges that you want to set for yourself, that's a great place to be. And I think that still presents a bright future if we take things seriously. So I think that's kind of my point of view.
Thank you. And I need to thank Daniel from ITS for the question. Is ITS the Institute of Technology Sudirman? Is that? Surabaya. Ah, very good. Thank you very much. I think, Angel, you may have answered the next question, which is students don't want to join an unpopular industry. We, as an industry, don't do a good job of changing the narrative. What do we need to do more to compete with talent? And I think you've almost answered that collectively. You know, it's an exciting industry. If you've got a passion for it, you'll find a way. There's nothing more fundamental than finding energy to meet society's needs and making it affordable so, you know, people can live good and productive lives. Having almost answered that question, is there anyone that would like to add something?
Yeah, if I may add, I think the opportunity is not just about communicating our key messages and reinforcing our key messages. I think we also need to listen, hear the signals from the younger generations and adapting. And I mentioned in my presentation, we're really good at adapting, really good at managing change. I think we need to continue to listen, and if there are things which are really important to the generations, younger generations, then let's think about that. The communication piece is difficult. You know, getting our key messages across can be challenging because sometimes the narrative is driven by others, head of states and you name it. But I think collectively, we all have a role to play. And this conference, for me, is a great example, a great opportunity for us to educate people about what we do and the important role that we play. And as we go back to our family, our friends, our neighborhoods, I think we also have the opportunity to talk about the important role that we play. So I think it's important for all of us to be ambassadors to make sure that our narrative is well understood.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in fact, you've got the next question, so your microphone needs to. It's a question for you, and it's a curly one, so brace yourself. Students would love to have a career with ExxonMobil. It's a fabulous and super energy company, but we're worried about the IOCs leaving Indonesia. Should we be better off with an NOC, or should we, continue down a route with an IOC? And in fact, I think I could, a good one.
Yeah, my goodness. Yeah, thanks for the curly question, indeed. Our focus in Indonesia is on growth. We're looking into a drilling program. We're looking at a number of expansion opportunities. We are growing our low carbon business. In fact, by the end of the year, I may move a few people from the upstream to low carbon. We are growing our downstream business, fuels, chemicals, lubricants. Everywhere I look in Indonesia, I see growth opportunities. And the fact that the government is so collaborative is also very helpful in that context. And so for those who are interested in joining ExxonMobil in Indonesia, please knock on the door, and we're looking forward to seeing your credentials. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd also remind you of, for the people considering the next steps in their formative careers, but Hilmi has given you the answer already today. Starting with Stanvac. Imagine you have spent your career learning these valuable skills. If companies do leave sometimes, but you know, they don't leave the assets. The assets remains. They're valuable to somebody. And being able to say you were trained by BP or Exxon or anybody, you know, is a tremendous credential that, you know, is a stamp. It means you've got technical skills. It means you've learned how to run a business. And even if one of the IOCs that you chose and they went down a different path, you're still incredibly valuable, having had that experience and training, you know, regardless of who, you know, ends up being your custodian for the meanwhile. So, sorry if I borrowed your story earlier, but it's Stan Vac, ConocoPhillips, you know, so these are incredibly valuable experiences and assets. But Hilmi, how do you compete with the Middle East oil companies offering better pay to attract new talent? And what is the best starting position to achieve a leadership position in Medco? I think people would be... And this was from Marvel from UBC.
Okay. Look, I think in the oil and gas business in Indonesia, I think the level of reward that we are offering is, I think, very competitive. I mean, and we do a survey almost every year. Make sure we are at least in the third quartile. So that's how we want to make sure that everybody's happy and well compensated. Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the latest survey of what our new employees are expecting from us, well, actually, competition is not at the top. If I'm not mistaken, in one of my slides I showed, the first thing as their priority is opportunity for growth, career advancement, yeah? Long-term opportunities for them. And actually, this is what we want. But of course, as I said, we will reward them competitively. I mean, internally it has to be equitable, but I think externally we'll always have to be competitive. And we will always do that.
And starting, I mean, I guess my thought would be focus on getting skills, focus on becoming useful, focus on your ability to contribute to whatever organization you choose to dedicate your time to.
Yes, that's right.
And then money will probably follow, and the leadership roles will follow, and
definitely
opportunities will follow. Oh, fantastic! Thank you. I think this might be for Pak Fatar, just so you can get ready to see if the old microphone works. Yeah. How can we students build leadership qualities so we can be more confident in making quick and appropriate decisions? That's why it's for you. Decisions. Yeah. Especially in the field of oil and gas in the future.
Yeah, thank you. This is a very important role. So the management skill set itself is not enough. You have the ability for management skill set, it's not enough. What you need to build, I think Carol mentioned about the broad spectrum of knowledge. When you combine knowledge and experience, you become competent, right? So you need to learn. For example, how can the shoemaker sell the seafood? Doesn't jive. So if you are doing the oil and gas business, you need to understand the oil and gas. Pak Purnomo already mentioned about the multidisciplinary discipline. So you need to understand the economic, you need to understand the technology, and also you need to understand the people, right? So this is what we call the broad spectrum. So you need to go through the whole system in the company, and you understand all the whole process. When you know all of this, when it comes to you as the leader, it's easy for you to make a decision. Otherwise, you're going to be, you know, you will question yourself. is it right to make a decision or not? It's going to take a lot of time for you to digest. So combining knowledge, experience, right? And more importantly, for a good leader, you have to listen. Listen to your whoever, 360 degree. When you're listening, you have a feedback. Take that feedback for you to give you for a better quality of leadership. Then it's easy for you to make decision, the right decision.
Yeah, that's important.
Decision.
The right
Thank
decision. Anyone can make a decision. Making it the right decision, now that's the trick. And it's funny, I have a daughter who says, Dad, I'm not confident at whatever subject. I said, well, frankly, of course you're not. You're not competent at it yet. If you were confident now, when you're not actually any good at it, that would just be weird. So let's work on developing the skill, and then confidence will come. Once you're a master of it, you can teach others and, flourish.
If I can just add a little bit.
Of course, but.
Yeah. Having worked with SK Camigas and on this topic of decision making, I think it can be also very frustrating if you are willing to step up and to make decisions. Given the nature of the industry, the decision-making process can be hindered by the number of steps, regulatory processes, contractual agreements that all companies need to go through. So, I mean, one of the things that the industry can do is to be more agile from within in the way that they operate, the way they make decisions. So when young people join and they want to change, other than offering them the opportunity and the capabilities to do so, that they can actually do it quickly. Otherwise, they may end up leaving before they achieve their success.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
I think we've got two more questions, perhaps. One is from Andy Faiz from Pertamina University. I come from Palopo City in South Sulawesi. That's 2 hours away from Makassar, where people are still unaware of the renewable energy and energy transition. So my question is, how do we think the public perception is that energy transition, awareness, and can we even adequately address these issues if people aren't aware of them and if they're not part of their day-to-day lives? I might pass that to Professor Purnomo, if I might.
First I would like to commend you on the decision-making process that I followed the discussion before. The way I look at the decision-making process is depend on where you are in that level. If, for instance, you are working with an oil company, really the decision-making process is not that involving a lot of the aspects in your life. For instance, I was before working for the oil company, and the oil company strictly what I see is the economic justification, decision-making process based on net present value, profit, and so forth. And also, of course, that you also include the technology. When you move up, higher than that, you are not in the operational level, you are in the technical level. The way I see that, you have to see from the helicopter view. From the helicopter view. And you move up higher than that you have to understand the satellite view. When you are in the state working for the oil company, I understood that those panelists coming mostly in the technical view and the operational view. But if you are in the strategic view, it's really complicated. Because you have to understand, not only the different angle, but also the whole angle you got to see from the comprehensive standpoint. So that's the way that I would like to share with you the way that how the decision-making process has been. I was in the oil company, the way I know how to make a decision. I was in the technical level, but I was in the strategic level. So one thing in the strategic level is very, very complicated, especially, I was also in OPEC organization. I was the governor of OPEC. I was the secretary general of OPEC. I was the president of OPEC. That make the decision-making process is not that easy. One. The second that I like to answer the questions regarding the question from a young student regarding the new and renewable resources. The way that we have to share to the people is oil, gas, and coal, the fossil fuel now is still important, but those energies are in the transition. The way I always illustrate it, if I give a speech, it's just like a bridge, there's a bridging fuel. We cannot stop those fossil fuel before the new and renewable energies is picking up. So, of course, we still need the oil and gas, but what we have to do is carbon capture, CCUS, yes. And the coal that we have to do is using the supercritical. We have to do the integrated gasification of combined cycle. We have to how to reduce the CO2 emission like coal liquefaction, coal gasification. But gradually then, we of course have to push the new and renewable energy. But we cannot do it in sudden time. We have to do it gradually. So that is what we call it the transition time, that what we need, the bridging fuel. The way, how far is going to be achieved, that really depends on many factors. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And I think that'll be our last question. But of course, we all operate with, society's support. And to use the example that we had, if you're in a small town, you don't need to know everything about Indonesian energy policy. I mean, even our experts here probably don't know every facet of it in the same way as you wouldn't know the policy for how many schools you need in South Jakarta or how many hospitals. What you do need is an effective policy, and broadly that policy needs to be supported by the society that we're in. So if society broadly supports the goals of decarbonization and making it through energy transition, where oil and gas is going to be with us in Indonesia for a very, very long time, we need to put it in that context. And hopefully we have good policies from our government in Indonesia, and so far, so good. So look, please join me in thanking our speakers and panelists today. Thank you so much. And Professor Purnomo, I think we probably have a memento at some point for you all, but I think that's the end of our session.
That will be with me, Mr. Holman. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Once again, let's give another round of applause to our moderator and our panelists here today. Thank you very much, Mr. Greg Holman, and all the panelists. We do have a memento. Therefore, we'd like for all to stand up, and we'll hand out the mementos for everyone here. This is a token of our sincere appreciation and gratitude for our panelists and also our moderator, and of course also Pak Purnomo, who is joining us online here. So for the mementos, I would like to invite Bapak Wahyu Budiarto, who will be presenting the mementos to the panelists and also to the moderator. Thank you very much, Ibu Carol Gal, for joining us today and sharing your insights. Thank you, Pak Ariel. very fluent Indonesian from Pak Angel today. Thank you, Pak Hilmi Panigoro, for sharing your insights with us today. Also, thank you, Bapak Fatar Yani Abdurrahman, for joining us and sharing his insights in our talk show today. And of course, to our moderator, Mr. Greg Holman, terima kasih banyak, Mr. Holman, for a very lively discussion today. And Pak Purnomo Yusgiantoro as well, thank you very much, Pak Purnomo, for joining us online. Let's take a picture together with Pak Purnomo as well in the back. All right, we'll give time for the photographers to take this moment for a photo session. Thank you very much once again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give another round of applause to our panelists and also our moderator. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing your insights and for showing us how the future is going to look for the oil and gas industry. Pak Purnomo, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you again, Pak Purnomo Yusgiantoro. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the talk show with a very, very timely topic. And it's nice to see that it's a very hopeful future for the oil and gas industry in Indonesia. And that concludes our morning talk, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the ending of our session. We will now have a lunch break. Lunch is served for you at noon at the Cendrawasih Hall. Once again, lunch will be served at the Cendrawasih Hall. And we'll see you later on. I'm Timothy Marbun. We'll see you at our next agenda, which is the closing ceremony session. Thank you very much and good morning to you all.
The world needs energy now, tomorrow, and in the years to come. Countries want to grow. It is therefore pivotal to acquire, secure, and manage resources. And it is here where we Medco Energy are contributing, investing in the future of energy and natural resources industries. We are a large group of companies with strong multidisciplinary capabilities, trusted to own and operate large and complex assets, oil and gas, power generation, mining. Hailing from humble beginnings as a drilling contractor in 1980, we have been promoting growth for decades. Sustainability is key. After years of organic growth and a series of acquisitions, we have become one of the leading energy and natural resource companies in Southeast Asia and beyond. We now operate at a large scale in reserves and production, driven by technology, innovation, cost leadership, and HSE best practices. In our power generation business, we aim to produce cleaner electricity with gas and other renewable sources such as geothermal, hydropower, and solar. We participate in one of the world's largest geothermal development, Sarula, and are responsible for their operations and maintenance services. We are also operating one of Indonesia's largest power plant and bring electricity closer to remote communities with our mini hydropower plants. We are also engaged in copper and gold mining, providing jobs and business in a less developed region and uphold the highest international standards. We understand that sustainability is key. Therefore, we strive to balance business objectives and sustainable development goals, moving towards world-class operational excellence with cost management, operating efficiency, asset integrity, as well as health, safety, and environmental protection as its pillars. We employ technology and logistics management to reduce fuel consumption and GHG emissions. Asset management is integrated with operations to safeguard our investments, people, the environment, and reputation. And we have re-greening and biodiversity enhancement programs in place to offset our carbon footprint. Sustainability is key, and so is growing together with the communities. Medco Energy realized from the start that we needed strong local human resources to develop our business. We seek and employ the best available talents in Indonesia and beyond, and provide inclusive, challenging, and rewarding career paths, work environments, training, and education programs. We were also aware from our beginning that we needed to be socially responsible where we operate. We provide help in education, healthcare, economic empowerment, and environmental protection. We are also not afraid to go the extra mile, helping to select better varieties of organic rice and even building a regional general hospital. Our efforts are monitored and evaluated by global consultants, helping us to adhere to international best practices of ESG and management standards. The world needs energy to grow, to build a better future for everyone. Medco Energy is at the forefront of the efforts of balancing the interests of all stakeholders and being a prominent player in Southeast Asia and beyond. We aim to be the energy company of choice.